A poor little girl sang to a sad man in a restaurant. She didn't know he was a grieving billionaire. The restaurant was quiet, except for the soft clink of forks and the hum of whispered voices. Candlelight flickered on the tables, casting shadows on the walls. At the far end of the room, a little girl stood on a small wooden stage, her voice trembling as she sang. Her dress was old, patched at the knees, and her shoes were scuffed. She held a cracked microphone close to her lips, her eyes wide with nervousness. Every note she sang was soft but clear, like a bird calling out in the night. At a table in the corner, a man sat alone. His suit was expensive, but his face was heavy with sadness. His eyes were red, like he'd been crying for days. He stared at the glass of water in front of him, not touching the fancy food on his plate. The girl's song floated over to him, and for the first time that night, he looked up. His eyes locked on her, and something in his face changed like a crack in a wall letting light through. The girl sang about a lost bird finding its way home, her voice growing stronger with each word. The man leaned forward, his hands shaking. A single tear rolled down his cheek. The other people in the restaurant didn't notice they were too busy eating or talking. But the girl saw him. She saw the tear. And she kept singing, her voice reaching out like a hand to hold. Then, something shocking happened. The man stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. Everyone turned to look. He walked toward the stage, his steps heavy, his face a mix of pain and wonder. The girl froze mid-song, her eyes wide. The microphone slipped from her hand and hit the floor with a loud thud. The room went silent. The man stopped in front of her, his tall figure towering over her small one. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. Instead, he dropped to his knees, right there in front of everyone, and started to sob. What was happening? Why was this rich man crying at the feet of a poor little girl? And what secret was he hiding that made her song break him apart? The story started 3 days earlier, in a small, crowded apartment on the edge of the city. Lila was 9 years old, with messy brown hair and eyes that sparkled like they held a secret. She lived with her mom in a tiny room with peeling paint and a leaky ceiling. They didn't have much. Lila's mom worked 2 jobs, cleaning houses and washing dishes at a diner, but it was never enough. Sometimes they ate only bread and water for dinner. But Lila didn't complain. She loved to sing, and her voice was her treasure. Every night, Lila sat by the window looking at the stars and sang songs she made up. Her mom would smile even when she was tired and say, "Lila, your voice is magic. It's going to change the world someday." Lila believed her. Singing made her feel like she could fly, like she wasn't stuck in that tiny apartment with holes in the walls. But things were getting harder. Lila's mom was sick. Not the kind of sick that goes away with medicine, but the kind that made her cough all night and sleep all day. Lila heard her mom whispering on the phone one night, talking about hospital bills they couldn't pay. Lila didn't know what debt meant, but she knew it made her mom cry. One day, Lila's mom came home with a flyer. It was crumpled, like it had been in her pocket all day. "Lila," she said, her voice soft but shaky, "there's a restaurant downtown. They're looking for singers. Anyone can try out. If you sing there, they might pay you. It's not much, but it could help us." Lila's eyes lit up. "I can sing for them, Mama. I'll sing my best song." Her mom hugged her tight, but Lila felt her mom's hands tremble. "You're so brave, my little bird," her mom whispered. The next day, Lila put on her best dress, though it was old and too small, and walked with her mom to the restaurant. It was called the Golden Spoon, and it was fancier than any place Lila had ever seen. The windows sparkled, and the tables were covered with white cloths. Lila felt small walking in, like a mouse in a palace. The manager, a tall man with a shiny bald head, looked at Lila's patched dress and frowned. "You're just a kid," he said, crossing his arms. "This is a nice place. People expect good singers." "I am a good singer," Lila said, standing as tall as she could. "Let me try, please." The manager sighed but waved her toward a small stage in the corner. Fine. Sing something. But don't expect much. Lila's heart pounded. She climbed onto the stage, her shoes squeaking on the wood. There was no microphone, just a small spotlight that made her feel like she was standing on the sun. She closed her eyes and started to sing. It was a song she'd made up about a bird who got lost but found its way home by following the stars. Her voice was small at first, but it grew, filling the room like a warm breeze. The manager's frown softened. A few waiters stopped to listen. Even the cooks peeked out from the kitchen. When Lila finished, the manager clapped slowly. "Not bad, kid," he said. "You can sing here tomorrow night. If the customers like you, we'll pay you a little. Don't mess it up." Lila ran to her mom and hugged her. "I did it, Mama! I'm going to sing!" Her mom smiled, but her eyes were worried. "I'm so proud of you," she said. But as they walked home, Lila noticed her mom coughing more than usual. That night, Lila heard her mom crying again, whispering about bills and medicine. Lila lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. She didn't know how much money singers got, but she hoped it was enough to make her mom smile again. Across the city, in a tall glass building, a man named Ethan sat in a dark office. He was richer than anyone could imagine. He owned companies, houses, and cars that shone like mirrors. But none of it mattered to him anymore. Ethan was 40 years old, with dark hair and eyes that used to sparkle but now looked empty. 6 months ago, his world had fallen apart. Ethan had a daughter named Sophie. She was 8 years old, with a laugh like bells and a love for singing. She used to sing to Ethan every night, making up silly songs about clouds and stars. But Sophie got sick, really sick. Ethan spent millions on doctors, hospitals, anything to save her, but nothing worked. One cold morning, Sophie closed her eyes and never opened them again. Ethan stopped going to work. He stopped smiling. He stopped living. His big house felt like a cave, empty and cold. His friends tried to help, but he pushed them away. His money couldn't bring Sophie back, and that broke him. Every night, he dreamed of her voice, singing those silly songs. But when he woke up, the silence hurt more than anything. One day, Ethan's old friend, Mark, came to his office. Mark was one of the few people Ethan still talked to. "You can't keep hiding, Ethan," Mark said. "Come to dinner with me tomorrow. There's a restaurant I know, the Golden Spoon. It's quiet. You don't have to talk. Just come." Ethan didn't want to go, but Mark wouldn't give up. "One dinner," Mark said. "For me." Ethan sighed. "Fine," he said, his voice flat. He didn't care about fancy restaurants or food. He just wanted to be left alone with his pain. The next night, Lila stood in front of the mirror in their tiny apartment, smoothing her dress. It was the same patched one, but she'd tied a ribbon in her hair to look nice. Her mom was too sick to come, so Lila walked to the Golden Spoon alone. The city was loud and scary at night, with cars honking and shadows moving in alleys. Lila clutched her ribbon and sang softly to herself to stay brave. At the restaurant, the manager handed her a cracked microphone. "Don't mess this up, kid," he said. "The customers are picky." Lila nodded, her stomach twisting. The restaurant was full of people in fancy clothes, laughing and eating. She felt like she didn't belong. But she thought of her mom, coughing in bed, and climbed onto the stage. The spotlight hit her, and she froze. So many eyes were on her. What if she forgot the words? What if they laughed? She closed her eyes and started to sing. Her voice was shaky at first, but then it grew stronger. She sang about the lost bird, the one who followed the stars. The words poured out, and she forgot about the fancy people and the manager's frown. She sang for her mom, for the apartment with holes, for the hope that things could get better. In the corner, Ethan sat with Mark. He hadn't wanted to come, but Mark had dragged him here. The food looked fancy, but it tasted like nothing to Ethan. He stared at his water glass, wishing he was back in his dark office. Then he heard a voice, small, clear, like Sophie's. He looked up and there she was, a little girl on the stage, singing about a bird finding its way home. Ethan's heart stopped. The song wasn't Sophie's, but it felt so close. The girl's voice was like a memory, pulling him back to nights when Sophie sang to him. His hands shook. His eyes burned. He couldn't breathe. The pain he'd buried for months came rushing back, but with it came something else, something warm, like a tiny spark of light. He stood up, his chair scraping. Mark grabbed his arm. "Ethan, what's wrong?" But Ethan didn't answer. He walked toward the stage, his heart pounding. The girl's voice wrapped around him, pulling him closer. He didn't know why, but he needed to be near her, to hear her better. The restaurant went quiet, all eyes on him. The girl stopped singing, her eyes wide with fear. The microphone slipped from her hand, hitting the floor with a loud thud. Ethan stopped in front of her. He wanted to say something, to tell her how her song made him feel, but the words wouldn't come. His knees gave out, and he fell to the floor, sobbing. The girl stared at him, frozen. The restaurant was frozen, like a picture nobody could move. Lila stood on the stage, her heart thumping so loud she thought everyone could hear it. The tall man in the fancy suit was on his knees in front of her, crying like a broken toy. His sobs echoed in the quiet room, making the fancy people at their tables shift uncomfortably. The dropped microphone lay on the floor, its crack glowing under the spotlight. Lila's hands shook. She wanted to run, but her feet felt stuck. The manager, Mr. Baldwin, pushed through the crowd, his face red. "What's this nonsense?" he shouted, glaring at the man. "Get up, sir! You're making a scene!" He turned to Lila, his eyes sharp. "And you, kid? What did you do?" Lila's voice was gone, swallowed by fear. I didn't do anything," she whispered. "I was just singing." The man on the floor didn't move. His shoulders shook and his hands covered his face. Lila saw his shiny shoes and gold watch, but all she could think was, why is he so sad? Something about his crying made her chest hurt, like when she heard her mom cough at night. Then, another man ran up, the one who'd been sitting with the crying man. He had kind eyes and a messy tie. "Ethan, come on," he said softly, kneeling beside him. "Let's get you out of here." He looked at Lila, his face apologetic. "I'm sorry, kid, he's not himself." Mr. Baldwin grabbed Lila's arm, pulling her off the stage. "Show's over," he snapped. "You're done for tonight." Lila stumbled, her ribbon falling from her hair. She reached for it, but Mr. Baldwin dragged her toward the back door. "No pay for you, causing trouble like this." Lila's eyes stung. "But I didn't do anything," she cried. "I need the money for my mom." The kind-eyed man looked up, still holding Ethan. "Wait," he called. "Don't kick her out. It's not her fault." He pulled out his wallet and handed Mr. Baldwin some cash. "Here, for her trouble. Let her go home." Mr. Baldwin snatched the money, muttering, and let go of Lila. She grabbed her ribbon from the floor and ran out the back door into the cold night. The alley smelled of garbage, and the city roared around her. Lila hugged herself, tears falling. She'd messed up. No money, no help for her mom. And that man, why had he cried? What had she done wrong? She didn't know that the man, Ethan, was being helped to his feet, his face wet with tears. She didn't see him whisper something to his friend, something that made the friend's eyes widen. And she didn't hear the promise Ethan made as he left the restaurant, a promise that would change everything. The night was dark as Lila walked home, her shoes slapping against the wet sidewalk. The city lights blurred through her tears. She clutched her ribbon, singing softly to keep the fear away. The song was the same one she'd sung at the restaurant, about the lost bird. It made her feel closer to her mom, even though she was alone. At home, the apartment was quiet except for her mom's coughing. Lila tiptoed inside, hoping her mom was asleep. But her mom was awake, sitting on the couch, wrapped in a thin blanket. Her face was pale, and her eyes were tired. "Lila, you're back early," her mom said, her voice weak. "How did it go?" Lila wanted to lie, to say everything was fine, but the truth spilled out. "I sang, Mama, but something happened. A man started crying, and the manager got mad. They didn't pay me." Her voice broke. "I'm sorry." Her mom pulled her close, her arms shaky but warm. "Oh, my little bird, it's not your fault. You sang, and that's enough. We'll figure it out." But Leela saw the worry in her mom's eyes. The next morning, Leela overheard her mom on the phone, talking to a doctor. "I can't afford the medicine," her mom whispered. "Please, just give me more time." Lila's stomach twisted. She didn't know what medicine cost, but she knew it was a lot. That day, Lila sat by the window, staring at the gray sky. She felt like the lost bird in her song, stuck with no stars to follow. She wanted to sing at the restaurant again, to try harder. But Mr. Baldwin's angry face scared her. What if he never let her back? Meanwhile, across the city, Ethan sat in his huge, empty house. The walls were covered with pictures of Sophie, his daughter. Her smile was everywhere, but it only made the silence louder. Last night's restaurant scene played in his head over and over. The little girl's voice, the song, the way it felt like Sophie was there, singing to him again. Ethan's friend Mark sat across from him, holding a coffee mug. "You scared me last night, man," Mark said. "What happened? Why'd you lose it like that?" Ethan stared at his hands. "Her voice," he said quietly. "It was like Sophie's. Not the same, but close. It hurt. But it also, I don't know. It made me feel something again." Mark leaned forward. "That kid, she's just a street performer, probably. You can't let it mess with you like this." But Ethan shook his head. "She's not just anything. I need to know who she is, where she's from, why she was singing." His voice grew firm. "I need to find her." Mark sighed. "Ethan, you're not thinking straight. You're grieving. You can't chase after some random kid because her song made you cry." Ethan stood up, his eyes burning. "I'm not chasing. I don't know what I'm doing, but I have to do something. I can't just sit here drowning in this." He pointed at the pictures of Sophie. "She'd want me to do something." Mark didn't argue. He knew Ethan was stubborn when he made up his mind. "Fine," Mark said. "I'll help. But don't do anything crazy, okay?" Ethan didn't answer. He was already thinking about the restaurant, the girl, the song. He didn't know why, but he felt like that girl was a piece of a puzzle he'd been missing since Sophie left. The next day, Lila decided to try again. She couldn't give up. Her mom needed her. She put on her patched dress, tied her ribbon, and walked to the Golden Spoon. Her heart raced as she pushed open the back door. Mr. Baldwin was there, counting money at a desk. "You again?" he growled. "I told you, no more singing. You caused enough trouble." "Please," Lila begged, her voice small. "I'll be better. I won't make anyone cry. I need the money for my mom. She's sick." Mr. Baldwin rolled his eyes. "Not my problem, kid. Get out before I call someone." Lila's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't move. "Just one more chance," she said. "I'll sing quieter. The door behind her opened, and a man walked in. It was the kind-eyed man from the restaurant, Mark. He looked surprised to see Lila. "Hey, kid," he said. "You're back?" Mr. Baldwin stood up. "She's leaving," he said. "No more troublemakers." Mark held up a hand. "Hold on. I'm here for business." He looked at Lila, then back at Mr. Baldwin. "Let her sing tonight. I'll pay for it, whatever it costs." Lila's mouth dropped open. Mr. Baldwin frowned but shrugged. "Fine. But if she messes up again, she's gone for good." Lila wanted to hug Mark, but she just whispered, Thank you. She didn't know why he was helping, but she was so grateful she could cry. That night, Lila climbed onto the stage again. The restaurant was busy, just like before. She held the cracked microphone, her hands sweaty. She saw Mark at a table, but the crying man, Ethan, wasn't there. She felt a strange mix of relief and disappointment. She didn't know why. She started to sing, her voice soft but clear. The same song about the lost bird. The customers ate and talked, barely noticing her. But Mark watched closely, his phone in his hand, recording her. Lila didn't see it. She was lost in the song, thinking of her mom, the stars, the hope that maybe tonight would fix everything. Halfway through the song, the restaurant door swung open. Ethan walked in. His face was pale, but his eyes were sharp, searching. He saw Lila on the stage, and his breath caught. He stood still, like he was afraid to move and break the moment. Mark waved him over. But Ethan didn't sit. He just watched. His hands clenched. Lila finished her song, and the room clapped lightly. She smiled, her heart lighter. Maybe she'd done okay this time. She stepped off the stage, and Mr. Baldwin handed her a few dollars. "Don't get used to it," he muttered. As Lila turned to leave, she bumped into someone. It was Ethan. His tall figure blocked the light, and his eyes were locked on her. "Your song," he said, his voice rough. "Where did you learn it?" Lila stepped back, scared. I made it up," she said. "It's about a bird." Ethan's face twisted, like he was in pain. "A bird," he repeated. "Why a bird?" Lila didn't know what to say. "Because birds can fly away from bad things, but they always try to find home." Ethan's eyes filled with tears, but he didn't cry this time. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, shiny object. It was a locket, shaped like a bird. He held it out to her. "This was my daughter's," he said. "She loved birds. She sang, too." Lila stared at the locket, her heart racing. She didn't know why, but she felt like something big was happening. "What's your name?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Ethan," he said. "And yours?" "Lila," she said. Before she could say more, Mark pulled Ethan back. "Come on, man," he said. "Let's talk outside." He gave Lila a quick smile. "Good job tonight, kid." Lila watched them leave, the locket's shine still in her mind. She clutched her few dollars and ran home, her head spinning. Who was Ethan? Why did he have a bird locket? And why did her song make him so sad? At home, Lila found her mom asleep, the blanket fallen to the floor. She tucked it around her, noticing a new pile of bills on the table. Her heart sank. The dollars in her pocket weren't enough. Not even close. She sat by the window, singing softly, trying to stay brave. But then, she heard a knock at the door. It was late, too late for visitors. Lila froze, her song dying in her throat. The knock came again, louder. Who was at the door? Was it Ethan, following her, or something worse? Her heart pounded as the knock echoed through the tiny apartment. It was late, and the city outside was quiet except for the distant hum of cars. She tiptoed to the door, her bare feet cold on the floor. Her mom was asleep on the couch, her breathing soft but uneven. Lila didn't want to wake her, but the knocking was too loud to ignore. She pressed her eye to the peephole, her hands shaking. On the other side stood Mark, the kind-eyed man from the restaurant. He looked nervous, glancing down the hallway like he didn't want to be seen. Lila's stomach twisted. Why was he here? Had she done something wrong? She opened the door a crack, just enough to peek out. "Mark?" she whispered. "What are you doing here?" Mark gave a small smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Lila, I'm sorry to come so late. Can I talk to you? It's important." Lila hesitated. She didn't know Mark, not really, but he'd helped her at the restaurant, paid Mr. Baldwin to let her sing. She glanced back at her mom, still asleep, and opened the door a little wider. "Okay, but be quiet. My mom's sick." Mark nodded and stepped inside, keeping his voice low. "I won't stay long. It's about Ethan, the man from the restaurant. The one who cried when you sang." Lila's chest tightened. She remembered Ethan's tears, his bird locket, the way he looked at her like she was a ghost. "What about him?" she asked. Mark sat on the edge of a wobbly chair, rubbing his hands together. "Ethan's not just some guy. He's very rich. He owns big companies, has a lot of money. But he's been sad for a long time. His daughter Sophie died 6 months ago. She was about your age. She loved to sing, just like you." Lila's eyes widened. "His daughter died?" She thought of the locket, the way Ethan had said. She loved birds. She sang, too. Her heart hurt for him, even though she didn't understand why he'd come to her. Mark nodded. "Your song, the one about the bird finding home, it reminded him of Sophie. It broke him open, but in a good way. He hasn't felt anything since she died. But when he heard you, something changed. He wants to help you, Lila." Lila frowned. "Help me? Why? I don't even know him." Mark leaned forward. "He found out where you live. Don't ask how. He has ways. He knows your mom's sick. He wants to pay for her medicine, her hospital bills, everything. He says it's because your song gave him hope again." Lila's mouth dropped open. "Pay for everything?" She looked at the pile of bills on the table, the ones her mom cried over. Could it be true? Or was it a trick? Why would he do that? Just because I sang? Mark sighed. "It's not just the song. It's you. You're like Sophie to him, not the same, but you remind him of her. He feels like helping you is a way to keep her memory alive. I know it's a lot to understand, but he's serious." Lila's head spun. A rich man wanted to help her mom because her song reminded him of his daughter? It sounded like a fairy tale, but fairy tales weren't real. She crossed her arms. "What if he changes his mind? Or what if he wants something from me?" Mark shook his head. "He doesn't want anything, I promise. I've known Ethan for years. He's hurting, but he's kind. He just wants to do something good. Will you let him talk to you? He's outside, in his car. He didn't want to scare you by coming up." Lila's breath caught. Ethan was here? She looked at the door, then at her mom. If this was true, it could save her mom. But if it wasn't, she bit her lip. "Okay," she said finally. "But I'm not going alone. You stay with me." Mark nodded. "Deal." Outside, the night was cold, and Lila shivered in her thin dress. A shiny black car was parked across the street, its windows dark. Mark led her to it, and the back door opened. Ethan stepped out, his tall figure wrapped in a long coat. His face was pale, but his eyes were clear, not red like before. He looked at Lila, and for a moment, nobody spoke. "Lila," Ethan said, his voice soft. "Thank you for coming out. I'm sorry if I scared you at the restaurant." Lila clutched her ribbon, staying close to Mark. "Why are you here?" she asked. "Mark said you want to help my mom. Is that true?" Ethan nodded. He knelt down so he was at her level, his eyes meeting hers. "Yes, it's true. Your song. It made me remember my daughter, Sophie. She was sick, like your mom. I couldn't save her, and that broke me. But when I heard you sing, I felt like I could do something good again. I want to pay for your mom's medicine, her doctors, anything she needs. You don't have to do anything for me. I just want to help." Lila studied his face. He looked sad, but honest. She thought of her mom's cough, the bills, the worry. "How do I know you mean it?" she asked. Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out the bird locket. He opened it, showing her a tiny picture inside. It was a girl with bright eyes and a big smile, holding a toy bird. "This is Sophie," he said. "She loved singing about birds, like you. I promise on her memory that I'll help your mom. I've already called a hospital. They're ready to take her tomorrow, if you say yes." Lila's eyes filled with tears. She wanted to believe him, but it was so much. "Why me?" she whispered. "I'm just a kid." Ethan smiled, a small, sad smile. "Because your voice is magic, Lila. It brought me back from a dark place. I think Sophie would have loved you." Lila looked at Mark, who nodded encouragingly. She took a deep breath. "Okay," she said. "But my mom has to know, and I'm staying with her." Ethan stood up, relief washing over his face. "Of course. I'll talk to your mom. Everything will be okay." The next morning, Lila's mom was awake, looking confused as Lila told her everything. Ethan came to the apartment with a doctor, a kind woman who checked on Lila's mom and said she needed to go to the hospital right away. Lila's mom cried, not from sadness but from hope. "Lila, you did this," she whispered, hugging her tight. "Your singing saved us." The hospital was big and clean, nothing like the crowded clinic Lila's mom used to go to. Doctors gave her mom medicine, and Ethan paid for everything, just like he promised. Lila stayed by her mom's side, holding her hand. Her mom's cough was still there, but the doctors said she'd get better with time. One day, while Lila's mom slept, Ethan visited the hospital. He brought a small gift for Lila new microphone, shiny and not cracked. "For your next performance," he said, smiling. Lila took it, her fingers tracing the smooth metal. "Why are you so nice to us?" she asked. "You don't even know us." Ethan sat beside her, looking at the locket he always carried. "Because you gave me something I thought I'd lost forever," he said. "Hope. Your song reminded me that there's still good in the world. Helping you and your mom makes me feel like I'm helping Sophie too." Lila nodded, understanding now. "I'm sorry about Sophie," she said. "I bet she was really nice." Ethan's eyes were wet, but he smiled. "She was, and so are you." Weeks passed, and Lila's mom got stronger. They moved to a new apartment, one with no leaks or holes, paid for by Ethan. Lila went back to school, but she never stopped singing. She performed at the Golden Spoon again, and this time Mr. Baldwin smiled when she climbed on stage. The customers clapped louder, and Lila felt like her bird had finally found its way home. Ethan came to her performances sometimes, sitting in the back with Mark. He didn't cry anymore, but his eyes were soft when he listened. Lila wrote a new song, one about two birdsong who flew away and one who stayed to sing for her. She dedicated it to Sophie, and when she sang it, Ethan stood up and clapped, his face full of pride. One night, after a performance, Lila ran to Ethan and hugged him. "Thank you," she said, "for everything." Ethan hugged her back, his voice thick. "No, Lila. Thank you." The restaurant glowed with candlelight, and Lila's voice lingered in the air. She didn't know Ethan was a billionaire when she sang to him that first night, but now she knew he was more than that. He was a friend, a helper, a man who found hope in her song. And Lila knew her mom was right, her voice was magic, not just for her, but for everyone who heard it. The story ends with Lila standing on the stage, her new microphone shining, her mom healthy in the audience, and Ethan smiling from the back. The bird in her song had found its home, and so had she. But in the city, other birds still flew, searching for their stars. And Lila's voice, clear and strong, promised to guide them one song at a time.